we're all humans. We all go through phases of like, I'm crushing it in the gym, and other phases where like, I feel like I suck, but you don't. You just don't quit. Hello, everyone. My name is Allie Virtue. I am the host of the Pre-Diet Podcast and a functional medicine nutritionist. And the whole point of this podcast is to teach you all the things you need to know to truly become a healthier you before you feel the need to start another random diet on Monday. And I'm really excited for today's topic. It is a solo episode. A couple updates, mostly so I can thank you guys. Over 700 streams so far as of today. I'm so excited. Thank you for sticking with these solo episodes. I just scheduled a bunch of people over the next couple of weeks, so I am really excited to get some other guests on here. I also really appreciate you guys helping me out with finding guests. I asked on my Facebook, who would you like to see on the podcast? And I got a bunch of recommendations, and that was really awesome to see who you guys want to hear from. Also, when I've asked for topics for these solo episodes, that's been really helpful as well. Make sure you go check out the last one. We talked about how to tell if you are hungry or bored and everything to do with hunger and what you can do about it, how to moderate it in a healthy way, all of that good stuff. So thank you for helping me out with that thing. And yeah, we're thriving. We're running with this stuff. So it is really exciting. Also, still taking clients in the community program. That is a whole $30 a month, and you can't actually make a profit. I'm going to pay your groceries if you do the habits. Last time I did a solo episode, I also gave a couple life updates. Jasper's still doing okay. He's sitting downstairs. I'm actually eager to record this and go hang out with them afterwards. But I talked a lot about excuses and that I'm not really at my optimal thriving self lately. And I think that's just a part of life. I have been getting into the gym a little bit more, and I'm honestly quite amazed how the human body can really maintain the fitness if we just keep moving a little bit. I feel like when it really sucks is when we completely quit and stop moving, which I know there are phases of life where that has happened. But if we can just keep moving a little bit, because I've never been this low as far as like frequency in the gym. I've decided not to stress out about it because there's plenty of other stress, and I don't think that's helpful at this point. My kind of threshold, just so I can be totally transparent with you guys and don't put personal trainers on a pedestal or, health professionals as myself of like, I have it really easy. Like, this is my job to be generally pretty healthy. It is my job to work out. It is my job to eat generally well, right? I have to show up and do the things and show you guys that I'm also walking the walk as well, right? But I've never been I talk about my plan C being my absolute minimum, and I've never used that so heavily, but I am grateful I have that framework. So I have that defined. And so I'm not sitting there spinning my wheels of like, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed out. I don't have time to do this, that, or the other. Instead, I'm just doing as much as I can to stay relatively consistent. So I do something every day. I exercise, like a workout, like where I get sweaty and my heart rate gets up every other day. That's become my new minimum since basically my dog Jasper's on hospice and I want to spend as much time with him as I possibly can. And that's been like CrossFit classes 2 times a week the last couple weeks. I really want to increase that a little bit. But if he's up a lot throughout the night, I'm going to be up there with him. And if I have absolute garbage sleep, that doesn't really pan out very well because I still have to take care of my horses in the morning. So running has been really helpful. It's very accessible. We are very lucky to have like a long driveway. So I just run laps. And that's a quick way to get just a sweat on. It's not my favorite necessarily, but I'm really grateful that I have that quick option, that I've been utilizing that. It doesn't have to be perfect by any means. Even last week, it really got to my minimum and got some kettlebells out that aren't very heavy, but just set a 15-minute timer and did stuff. It wasn't super structured, just picked 3 movements, did those over and over again for 15 minutes, called it good, moved on with my day. Riding my horse has been helpful, going for a walk. So those are kind of like my bare minimums. Kind of some of them are like riding my horse. I have to do that anyway. Like, she needs to exercise and be fit as well. But just wanted to share that a little bit if that helps anybody realize that like we're all humans. We all go through phases of like, I'm crushing it in the gym, and other phases where like, I feel like I suck, but you don't. You just don't quit. That's the real secret sauce to this stuff, is just be completely relentless with the bare minimum and basic efforts. They pay off a lot. The topic for today came about because I was invited to take part in a local event called Hot Girl Summer, a Glow Up Experience. This event was so much fun. So big shout out to Jordan Hill. If you missed it, you missed out. But it was really fun to connect with other female business owners, and it was a great time. It was held at the Blooming venue in Salem Center if you're local to the Salem, Oregon area. And but I was talking about this event with somebody else, and once I mentioned the event, I felt like their eyes got a little like shifty, judgy a little bit. And it's definitely different, a different name than what I would call it, but it fit the vibe. It was very Hot Girl Summer. We had all kinds of different vendors there, and it was really just about making women feel beautiful, whether that was getting some permanent jewelry, whether that was getting hair extensions, whether that was finding some new summer outfits or buying yourself flowers. Like there was a whole gambit of people there. I was there obviously with the nutrition side. There was a yoga studio there, Pilates studio, I believe, a personal trainer, a friend of mine, Megan Egley, who's been on the podcast before. So really just a cool group of professionals as well. So there's a life coach there. So really cool, really excited to be a part of it. But I wanted to touch on the topic because I think Hot Girl Summer or maybe other headlines like that can be taken in the wrong way. And I wanted to get ahead of it so we can have the best possible summer possible. I think it is possible. And a lot of people talk about summer like, I need to get ready for summer, or this came up too quick. I was going to lose weight. I need to get, the bikini body ready, or whatever it is. And I want to change the narrative because when I hear Hot Girl Summer, I think of a feeling. I don't necessarily think of an aesthetic vision that comes to mind. And maybe that's just from my experience being a nutrition coach and talking to people and just listening how much they beat themselves up for not looking the way that they feel like they should look. So I want to change the game a little bit, and I want to give you a plan on how to get the most out of your summer health-wise, make you feel really good, hopefully prevent some traps that people get into, share what works really well for my clients. And so we can really make ourselves and our brain like really resilient and resistant to some of the potentially toxic messaging that can come up throughout the summer. So I want to make the best possible, give you the best possible Hot Girl Summer, whatever that means to you. We're going to cover how do you find out what that means for you as well? So, all right, let's dig into our topic. All right, so first things first, what does a Hot Girl Summer mean to you? Like I said, it's a feeling for me, but step one, we need to know what that means for you. Basically, what are your goals with that? And for me, it means feeling good. It means I'm feeling good in my body. It means I'm feeling good mentally. It means I have quality time with my family and with my friends. I'm probably spending time outside. I'm probably riding my horse a lot. I get to do those things, go for walks, maybe time at the lake if a friend has a boat or something like that. But like, that's what I visualize when I'm thinking my Hot Girl Summer. This might look different for you, and that's totally fine. But I do want you to figure out why you want those things, because that's probably step number 2 for anything. We find out what we want, and then we ask ourselves why we want it. And we keep asking why until we figure out like the root cause. There's nothing else below that. So why do you want those things? Why are they important to you? For me, I need to feel good, and that's why it's number 1 for my requirement of a Hot Girl Summer, is because I need to enjoy those things to the max, and my body needs to function to do that. If I don't feel really good, if I feel sick, if I feel lethargic, not good in my skin, I'm not going to enjoy those experiences, those summer fun things, as much as I possibly could have. So for me, that's number 1. I need good energy to do all that stuff. I don't want to feel like crap. It's really harder to enjoy yourself when you just don't feel good. So that's my big why as well. And I think I show up better for my family, for my friends. I'm able to do more with the time that I have. Not that we don't need to rest. That's a part of it too. But like for me, that's how I get the most out of those activities. So that's number 2. Why do you want those things that you want for your Hot Girl Summer? So after we figured out our why, the next step is I want to help you create your Hot Girl Summer. And not because this is not going to be a guide to get shredded in like 10 days or whatever. It takes a long time to get probably what most people would pick off Instagram as like bikini ready. That really is a lifestyle, and honestly, you should go reach out to Megan Egley. She is an IFBB Pro bikini bodybuilder, and when we were talking about this topic at the venue, she was like, I spend half the year, if not more, getting ready, quote, like bikini ready. Granted, it's bodybuilder, different standards, like they probably get way more shredded than the average person has a desire to be. But that's not going to be our Hot Girl Summer. We're not going to like crash diet. We're not going to like have celery juice all summer long to just shrink ourselves. That just sounds not fun, right? That sounds like the polar opposite of my Hot Girl Summer of like, I want to feel good, I want to have energy. Celery juice alone is not going to give me enough energy to do the things that I want to do. All right, so now I want you to fast forward to the end of your summer, whenever that is. For me, I kind of think that it's like end of September, or maybe for you, you have kids, so it's end of August or something like that. But fast forward to the end of the summer and you crushed it. You had a fantastic time. You did exactly what you wanted. Everything went well. What happened? How do you feel? What did you do? What did you not do? And what did you stay really consistent with? I want you to think about those things. And that was going to give us a path of like what you actually want to see. So for a lot of my clients, they usually want to have some fun with like barbecues and parties and stuff like that. So it's definitely a little bit, we're not aiming to be 100% boring here and just like have quote perfect meals. But they probably say I stay consistent in the gym or some sort of movement. It's mostly that they don't want to give up or they don't want to ever feel like they really sabotage themselves. Those things are big. And especially if you think of putting our efforts or habits on a graph, they don't want to have high highs. So again, the boring food, that they never, partake in any fun stuff. That's like keeping everything like really high level. I don't think most people strive to stay there forever because that also makes it feel like you really failed when you had some fun food. So I want to find somewhere in the middle. Like we say, mostly dialed in, and then we have some fun food and we don't feel really bad about it. Because again, I don't want you to feel so low for doing something that's fun or enjoyment in some form that it derails other efforts. I want to be fairly consistent with things throughout the whole summer. That's usually when people feel mentally their best, when they have really restrictive periods and then really bingey periods or like off the handlebar periods. That up and down, that roller coaster is really hard to recover from, and it's really hard to stay consistent if it's just like up and down so much. So I really want you to think about things that you can stay fairly consistent with. That's usually when people feel mentally really good. So I wanted to share some things that my clients say when they're having a pretty good time over the summer. Things like, I plan my regular food for the week. I chose what meals and when I'm going to have some fun food with. I planned my alcoholic drinks for the week or how many they want to have for the month. A lot of times that's like they'll have like 1 or 2 for the week. Some people will say like 2 nights with alcohol per month. Really got to define that for yourself. For me, I think like 2 drinks a week is pretty good health-wise. More than that, sure, people can do it, but like that would be my personal recommendation, is not more than 2 per week or less. Obviously, alcohol has no health benefits, but define for yourself. Other things around alcohol could be having water between drinks, exploring non-alcoholic drinks as well. And then outside of alcohol, I would say most people feel pretty happy if they keep movement in their routine with intention. They keep to their exercise plan. I have one client that is absolutely crushing it right now. So shout out to Mary. Mary is doing a fantastic job. And I wanted to share what she's been doing because she is probably the most systematic of my clients. Like I strive to create a system for all my clients, but she is like checkbox done. She's very, very good at knowing what habits she needs to do and not worrying about the other details of like, should I be buying this supplement? Should I do this other thing? Or she's very regimented with the things that work well for her. So I wanted to share that with you guys as well. So number one thing, she tracks her food and she tracks her body weight every day. Body weight, we can miss a couple throughout the week, but she tracks things very regularly. She crushes protein. She's very good about getting enough protein, sometimes even more. We had to actually scale her protein target back because she was so good at it. We just needed the calories spent elsewhere. She also gets to the gym. She hits a HIIT workout, high intensity interval workout, CrossFit-esque-ish, or some sort of like lifting, 4 times a week. And sometimes she'll have a personal training session with her old trainer to lift something a little bit heavier. And then this is killer, this next one, she bikes or walks 30 minutes a day. She tries to get a 30-minute bike or a 30-minute walk just for some passive movement, little extra bit of a calorie burn, but just so it's always on her mental kind of to-do list of like, just get some extra movement in. And she's really good about this because she has a job where she gets a lot of steps. And so people have mentioned to her before of like, hey, you get so many steps. Why do you need to work out so much? Your job is so active. And she had the best response. I was so happy. This made my day when she told me this. But she's like, I need to exercise to be stronger than what I need to do for my job. Like I want to be strong. Like I need to exercise outside of my job. This is just activity. This is not exercise. And I was like, that's right. So like there's different ones. So anyway, she tracks her food very diligently. Even when she's having some fun food on the weekend, Sunday is sometimes like her social day where she'll have some more fun or go out to a show or do something like that. And she still definitely has fun food. She knows that nothing is off limits. She does know a lot of that like fried food or fun stuff tends to mess with her digestion. And that's what she's signing up for potentially the next couple of days. But that's fine. We don't need to feel bad about it at all. And then she still tracks it as best she can. So she gets kind of an idea of where she's at. And then we'll try to adjust accordingly so her calories aren't going super high. And then, the next day she's back to her normal routine with food that makes her feel really good. She also knows how to pull which levers depending on how she's feeling. So if she's feeling really snacky, she reaches for protein first. If we've maximized our protein for the day, then she'll reach for other high volume things like popcorn, watermelon, berries, fruit, big salads, big smoothies. We recently talked about banana ice cream. If you've never had that before, that's a really tasty dessert. And you can make it high protein and fit your macros and all that kind of thing. So just Google banana and ice cream and you're welcome. That's really helpful as well. So her system, 5 things. Logs her food daily using the Chronometer app or chronometer.com, free app. Daily morning body weights, strength trains 4 times a week, and then daily walks, 30 minutes of movement, bike, walk, and then make sure she gets enough sleep. So those are 5 things. And those 5 things, like pretty much every healthy human can benefit from, doing a little diet audit. But those are the 5 things that are getting her really, really good results and making her feel really good. So copy that system. Steal it, use it. It's probably going to work really well. It also gives you a lot of information food-wise about what you might need to tweak. And then you can make more changes there if you need to. Next, I want to think about getting ahead of the struggle or the tough points, which is mostly the parties, the BBQs, the graduation parties, the weddings, vacation, the list goes on. A lot of people will say during the holidays, like in the wintertime, that, oh, this is not a good time to be healthy. I'll wait till the summer or wait till the spring. There's never a good time. Don't wait for a time. Like, we need to be a healthier version of ourselves for as long as we live, right? So if I'm 34 years old, I need to become a healthier version of me for the next 60 years. Right? So there's not really a good time. We need to learn how to become a healthier person on my birthday, on vacation. Like, I likely need to do all of those situations like a tiny bit different, or probably isolate them, because quite often what happens is people will have a party or a barbecue or a wedding, and one day wedding turns into like a week or more of not eating optimally because we ate some fun food and then we feel not great, and then the cycle just starts there. So try not to think of like, this isn't a good time, I'll do it later type of thing. There's also, with those vacations or those events, there's so much peer pressure that goes on. I mean, just think of how many times someone's like, oh, have another drink with me, have another cookie, have another slice of cake. Oh, grandma brought her special cookies. Like, won't you have another one with me? Or there's leftovers. Please take them home with you, etc. So going on vacation or doing any of those things, like, it's definitely not just an isolated incident. Sometimes that stuff can drag out a little bit, and there's a lot of peer pressure that goes with it, and that uses up a lot of our kind of motivation battery, because you might come in thinking like, I'm so dialed, I'm crushing this, and then we have a party like that and it gets you off a little bit, and then again that motivation or momentum kind of slides a little bit, and it feels like it takes a lot of energy to kind of get back to that normal routine that was working so well for you. I would also say most of the time with our vacations, people will schedule it to get the most amount of vacation time, right? So quite often this is coming home like Sunday night and then you're back to work Monday morning, right? So there's not a lot of time to kind of transition or prepare, and that can be tough as well. So maybe the vacation went really well, but getting back into the work stuff is really tough. And this is where little things like ordering your groceries to be delivered or for pickup or something like that, so you have food, maybe ordering from a meal prep service, can be really helpful. So you just have a couple meals to kind of get your week started before you can have like a normal weekend to kind of prepare meal prep or whatever you need to do to kind of hit the more optimal habits that really help you out. All right, so how do I help my clients get through those kind of tougher situations? The first thing that comes to mind, and that I need you to really accept as like a fact or truth, is that you have more control or more influence. Probably a better word for that is influence. You have more of an influence than you think. Do not throw in the towel just because I had to eat this. There are some situations where you really are not in control of things, but I think that is much less the case than people really think. I think people throw that reasoning out there a little bit sooner than actually is true. My husband's been a great example of this. He has very specific dietary needs. And one of the, I think, best, most powerful things he's ever said when I've talked to him about this, he's like, it's my responsibility to feed me. Like, it's not anybody else's responsibility as a grown adult to feed me. Like, if the food there is not going to be compliant, like, it's my job to figure something else out, whether that's eating before or not abstaining and like having something later, mostly because it will really mess with his gut health and it's not worth it to him. So you have more influence than you think. Please take that on as truth. The best way to make changes, to me, has been proven over and over again, is identity-based changes. So you need to identify as a healthier person. You've probably heard me say that multiple times already, and it's for a reason. Maybe I'm trying to program people when they're listening to this, but if you do something as a healthier version of you, it allows you to let go of some of the old habits that you used to do as well. Because again, when we go into these party scenarios, wedding scenarios, things like that, people are like, oh, Allie always drinks with me. She always has multiple beers. And that's the image that people have in their head. And if that's still an option, it's going to be a lot harder to say no to those beers versus if I'm trying to be, call it my highest self, my healthier self, she doesn't even entertain that. And the motivation there to say no gets a lot easier versus if I'm still thinking as old me of like, oh, heck yeah, I always used to do that. I got to do that. If I don't do that, I'm missing out. And, et cetera. You start thinking in kind of like a restricted mindset instead of thinking like, oh, there's other things that I have to look forward to in this experience besides that one thing that I used to do. I think this is really pivotal because it helps you decrease a lot of choices that you have to make. And the more choices you have to make in these newer situations, it's really easy to get overwhelmed. And again, if you think of somebody else and, think of being in someone else's shoes, this has actually been really interesting hanging out with Devin Grogansmore, the IFBB Pro bodybuilder that I'll do YouTube videos with. We went to Panda Express and he was like 3 weeks from prep. And he's like, I'm not going to eat any of this. And it was pretty good macros. It was pretty good option for we were both very impressed with that being an option. He's like, if I wasn't just this close to prep, I probably would have had this, but I'm this close and I'm not gonna mess with my system at that point, right? So if we have to take on that other identity, and I don't think we need to go as restrictive as taking on the identity of I am now a bodybuilder, I'm going to say no to all sugar and cookies and things like that. It's not what I'm saying. But also if my husband, if he has an allergy to something, he's not going to entertain that food. He's just not going to. So those are extreme examples, but just really to paint the picture of you do have a choice. We can think out of the box. If you really had to find an alternative option, I think there are some creative solutions we can come up with. The next thing that I try to help my clients deal with is peer pressure. I already kind of alluded to that already, but this might strike a nerve with me just because it takes me back to college when everybody on the team was trying to get the freshmen drunk, and I'm just so goddamn stubborn that it was just never going to happen. So when people peer pressure my clients and I see how hard they're trying when no one's watching to be the healthier version of themselves, and then I see so many people or hear about all the people at these events or their family or their friends really pressuring them to do things that don't serve their future health goals or their current health goals, that I find that really frustrating. So even if you don't have very specific things that you're working on, if you see someone else that is, please be supportive. Please don't pressure them. If they say no, that means no, and help them hold that boundary. So peer pressure is one. Some things to help with that are kind of playing out what could possibly happen if they say no, or if a friend gives them a hard time, and kind of talking those things through of what's the worst if someone keeps asking you? You can explain it. You can say, oh, I have an allergy to this, or oh, I have a health thing I'm working on. And usually that makes people uncomfortable enough to they'll back off. Hopefully. I don't know your people, but usually there's a phrase that we can come up with, and you can workshop it with a friend of or maybe have a wingman, whether that's your spouse or a friend at a social event of hey, will you hang out with me? Or maybe you can talk to these people and say I don't want to talk about this, and maybe give them a heads up. And so hopefully that can just make it a non-issue. That can be really helpful too. So as you're thinking about these events, think about what your healthier self would do in these situations. So for me, if I had one cookie, I was going to have all 5 cookies. I definitely had a issue with overeating and binge eating potentially. So now is a healthier version of myself. And definitely for a while when I was in the thick of it, I would try to avoid desserts. But now I realize the healthiest version of me does have desserts. And I mean that mentally because I don't think it's helpful. I don't strive to be so restrictive that I feel like I can't have a cookie. I think I'm in the best possible spot when I feel like I can have a little bit of that stuff and it doesn't have a control over me. So that's my evolution of the healthiest version of me. Is able to enjoy 1 or 2 cookies, or ideally actually if I can share some desserts with a friend or my husband, and I can have half a cookie and we can try different kinds of cookies. So if there's multiple desserts on the table, I definitely would like to try them, but I don't feel the need to have all of them, eat all of them. I just want to experience them. So that's my particular goal. Figure out what your particular goal for each event is. Also, maybe again, talk to that wingman, talk to that spouse, and see what you can kind of come up with of hey, okay, my goal is to not have any desserts Saturday night because I know Sunday I'd rather have the desserts at the barbecue instead of Saturday. Come up with your plan so it's just a little bit more moderate. It's just not what you used to do. Because what I used to do would leave me feeling bloated in a fancy dress, and that is one of the worst feelings, is feeling just bloated in nice clothes. It just makes me want to go home as quickly as possible. I hated that feeling. So that is a big motivator for me to keep striving to do the things that make me feel my best. I also want you to keep that healthier version of you in mind the next day. This might seem counterintuitive, but I think the next day is when people tend to get the most restrictive. So if you do mess up the night before, take myself as an example. If I ate too much, feel bloated in my dress, feel bloated the next morning, my hands are puffy, water retention, like it's just really don't feel good. I still have those negative thoughts of like, oh, I should do an extra workout today, or oh, maybe I should do a fast, or go to the gym more this week. Or I've heard people say like, I'm going to go to the gym every day this month, or I'm going to do a juice cleanse. Don't do that. I don't think that's what the healthiest version of you would do. Just like I said, the healthiest version of me doesn't abstain from cookies. She eats a moderate amount of cookies that still allow her to feel good. You can also think about this as like pro athletes. A pro athlete doesn't do extreme things. They likely have a very systematic approach of like, they work out these days, they recover these days, they have practice these days. Like they don't deviate from that or do extreme things. They stay very consistent with the system that works well for them. All right, so I want to circle back to, or keep working on these social events, because I do think these are one of the hardest things that people have to like learn to navigate. And one of the best things I think to do, because I mentioned how busy the summer can get. I mean, you can have so many birthday parties, anniversaries, weddings, all in this 1 week. And this is something that I talk with one-on-one clients about constantly. So my question that I ask each week is like, what does your calendar look like for the next week? Are there any social events? Are there any things that can make our normal habits harder? And some people have said, I have 3 graduation parties this weekend, and I have, my anniversary or my husband's birthday is on Tuesday. Like this stuff happens. So if we know about that, we can instantly look at the week and see, okay, I have a lot of opportunities for fun food, and we can talk about what sounds the best and what we want to prioritize, because we probably don't want to say yes to everything. We don't probably want to say yes to every single one of those fun food events. Like that's probably going to delay our progress for the week if we have a weight loss goal. But also usually people just don't feel good. I think somebody called it pizza gut. That was a really good one. They're like, I don't want to have pizza gut. I don't want to have pizza gut. And I was like, okay, so like let's not have pizza. That's clearly not one of the fun foods that is the best investment if we're gonna have something fun. So think about that. Zoom out for the week. Not every meal on vacation is special. Super unpopular opinion. I don't think every meal on vacation has to be fireworks. Even if it tastes great, I think it's still really good, depending on what you want as your goal for the vacation or how you want to come back after vacation. But I think we need to really practice on breaking the pattern of like eating everything on the plate. Maybe taste everything on the plate, especially if you're traveling somewhere that has just really different food. And so you want to explore that. I definitely am in that camp. I really literally want to eat through the city. But I know that if I want to experience the most things, I need to not consume everything. I know I need to not consume everything in its entirety. So I need to portion control so I don't feel constantly overly full. Because I think that's also people get used to overeating, and like 120% full is their new like 100% full. That's what their normal is, they're used to, and that's how it just gets super normal for them to overeat constantly. And then that becomes our number one thing to kind of unlearn, is like, oh, I have to dial it back. I have to be okay with being a little less full. It almost feels hungry to them, but eventually we can kind of calibrate back to what's kind of actually normal, or that supports weight maintenance or weight loss. But that takes a little bit. And that if we can avoid that from the start, if we can get ahead with prevention, that really helps. So look at the week, see what foods you want to enjoy most, especially if you know it might be being served. If not, maybe be a little bit more conservative and just try to have some more normal meals in the mix. You can also look at your meal plan for the week, what you're buying. Maybe buy some leaner protein, so you just have a little extra buffer in the week. That's also really helpful, because no one meal is going to make or break us. It's what we do for the week. And that's why we're zooming out to the week, so you can see like, okay, these are the things I want to enjoy. This day I can keep normal. This meal I can keep normal, etc. Because it's actually funny if you kind of break it down with like the math, because a lot of people will, nail their nutrition probably Monday through Thursday, Monday through Friday, and then Saturday, Sunday are like no tracking, no rules, flying off the wagon. That makes it really tough. That is definitely a cycle. You spend all week losing the weight you gained on the weekend. And that's a really frustrating cycle to be in. So if we break it down math-wise, Monday through Friday is 71% of your week. The weekend is 29% of your week as far as meals, right? If we're having 21 meals in a week. So 20% of the meals for the week is 4 meals. If someone's going off the handlebars for 4 meals out of the week, I actually usually see that it's quite hard for them to make progress as far as like weight loss goals. All that depends on how like your coach breaks down your macros, your calorie intake, depends on if you have a decent budget to work with calorie wise. all of that kind of depends. But in general terms, I find it kind of hard for people to progress if they're having probably more than two fun food meals. It's not impossible, but that's probably the generalization that I would make. Again, probably super unpopular opinion, but I don't want to lie to you. I just want to share what I observe after about 9 years in. So some options for these events. And again, this is really going to depend on your goals, the specific event. Obviously, if it's my wedding, I'm not going to give two shits about counting my macros. If it's my second cousin twice removed's wedding, then maybe I'm not super close to them and maybe I just need to kind of show up and be in attendance, right? Maybe the food's not super special. I don't know. You can decide that for yourself. But some options: you could eat before, you could bring some food, obviously not to a wedding probably, but you can bring some food, look up the menu ahead of time, ask about the menu. I think this is very well accepted at this point, especially with food allergies and things. You could also plug in your macros ahead of time and try to make the most of your meals outside of the event time as well. Also, if you are going out or just traveling a bunch, make sure you check out the YouTube videos where I teach you how to order like a professional nutritionist is what that is. But we go to a lot of generally healthier fast food chains and kind of teach you how to order. So that could be really helpful. I also kind of rate their nutrition information and how easy it is to use versus not helpful. So make sure you check that out. Otherwise, those other meals, I would try to make them high protein, high veggies, lots of fiber, because those things are usually the things that are missing in most fancier fun food occasions. Next is going to be maximize what you can control. So that's your exercise, and don't get crazy with it. Don't be so extreme of going for a 2-hour run unless that's part of your training plan. Make sure you are optimizing sleep. That's really going to help you regulate your stress levels, regulate your appetite, so you don't come in super hungry to these events. That makes it really hard to be successful if you just come in with a wildly high appetite. And then mental health. What is also good for your mental health so we can make good food choices? Because otherwise we tend to lean on food to be that comfort for us. Maybe this is journaling. Maybe this is keeping up with your therapy sessions. Maybe this is, spending quality time with your spouse. All of those things can help us execute the health goals, the habits, all of those things. Next is if you feel like you have absolutely no control, fine. Eat the food. Just don't stuff yourself. Stop when you're almost full. Really try to avoid eating everything when possible or overeating. We don't need to be a part of the Clean Plate Club. That's probably fine. We can probably find food elsewhere if we really need to. And really work on being okay with leaving food on the plate. I know this seems a lot easier said than done, and I definitely agree. I mean, if you were to ask me to do this 8 years ago, probably I would say but I paid for it. I paid for this food. I don't want to waste this food. It was expensive, or that's $9 wasted on the plate, etc. Try not to do that math, because we have bigger goals long term. $9 over a longer period of time of constantly training ourselves to overeat is really tough. So try to take it home. Try to be okay with leaving it on the plate if you know you're not going to eat it at home, or if you know it's food that you don't really need to be eating on a regular basis. You make that decision, but really practice this, because I think it is hard. I think it does take time, and it's a skill I think healthy people have. All right, next I have a little gift. If you would like to join the Become a Healthier You group program, I'm going to put a resource in there. It's going to be a big PDF list of kind of my go-to healthier options. So whether you're hosting a party or a potluck, or you're going to a potluck, I'm going to list a bunch of meal ideas that you can use for those occasions, just to give you some more ideas. I don't think this is necessarily hard. I think we just get stuck in our ruts of making the same stuff. Okay, I think we have covered most of the things you need to have a hot girl summer your way. Whatever you want for you, I think we can do that with the skills we've talked about today, because I don't want you falling for any of those headlines that say, drop a dress size in 7 days with this one weird trick. Ultimate 10-day detox to flush out toxins. Let's not go there. Any of those things that have that kind of hint of slimy tactics, let's leave those alone. Let's not do that this summer. Let's have a good summer. Let's have our own hot girl summer. So let's leave those behind. I would also say maybe do a little audit of how we talk about things. The last thing I want to touch on before we wrap things up is how you talk about food. And especially if we're seeing people that we haven't seen in a while, I would say very, very conscious of complimenting based on looks, unless you know the context of so-and-so has been really working on their health. Hey, you look great. I haven't seen you in so long. You look really happy, or you look really strong, or something like that. I wouldn't always say, you look great, you've lost weight. Don't always associate weight loss with things that have been going well. They could be depressed. They could be really stressed out. So I think those are also phrases to kind of leave behind as well, as much as possible. Also, just if we're in those events, and quite often people want to make light of like maybe some fun food that's around and be like, oh, it's okay, it's my cheat day, it's my cheat meal for the week. I wouldn't really engage in phrases like that either. Try to really break up that whole food has a moral value thing. I don't think that's very helpful. So if we can break those things up, I think those little changes also help, again, create this much more positive atmosphere around food. All right, to close things out, I'm going to do my minute of motivation. Hopefully I can keep it to a minute, but this is just a little segment to give you a little boost. Hopefully the information we talked about today in the episode was helpful, but this little minute is some things that really keep me motivated to do the things when I don't feel like doing it. So the thought that comes to mind for today is I was doing one of my morning runs. Again, I said that morning runs aren't necessarily like my favorite form of exercise, but I've been really grateful for them, for the ease of it, but also because some of my clients can't. They can't just get up and go for a run. And that's not like a thought of like, I'm better than them. It's not. I'm really grateful that I'm currently not dealing with an injury or illness, chronic illness, any of those things that would prevent me from doing those things. So that's been a really kind of key and helpful thought of, I'm really grateful that I can do this, and I don't need to do more. So it's motivating, but it's also kind of a relief as well, because I can easily have those thoughts of like, oh, I should be doing more, or I should be running farther, or I should be running faster. And those thoughts of reminding myself to be grateful that I can do it also give me some relief in the sense that I don't need to do more. I don't need to do the most. I don't need to say I should be doing X amount of speed or volume or whatever. And it's not about that. It's about not quitting. It's about getting yourself to keep taking action, even if it's small action. And I thought that was pretty perfect to pair with today's kind of message, because we want to enjoy the summer, and we need to use our body to do it. So I need to use my body. I need to make sure my body is exercised on a regular basis so it can function well, so it can be healthy, to truly get the most out of my summer. And maybe that'll be my kind of all summer long type of celebration. All right, guys, that's what I got for you today. Hopefully you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please share with a friend, maybe your fitness buddy, your accountability buddy. Please like this video on YouTube or wherever you're listening to it. Follow on whatever platform you get your podcast on. Please consider leaving it a review or a 5-star review wherever you listen. Also, make sure you're following along on Instagram. Share this episode on your socials if you can. And lastly, make sure you subscribe to the Free Shit Friday email list to get all the exclusive free downloadables every single week. Other than that, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.